The Nonprofit Podcast. Tools, tips, and tactics to take your organization to the next level. The Nonprofit Podcast. Powered by DonorBox.
Do you have too many irons in the fire or too many great ideas that keep your organization pulled in different directions? Today, we're talking about tips to move that needle on your organization's strategy. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Cara, fundraising coach at DonorBox. We're here each week with practical actions you can use today to increase donations and take your nonprofit to the next level tomorrow. I'm joined by Tim Ardillo, a longtime fundraiser and strategy consultant. Tim provides guidance and works one-on-one with organizations to amplify their efforts and get a better grip on their strategy. I always enjoy learning from Tim and admire his ability to take complex processes and communicate them in a way that's easy to understand and easy to apply. Today, he's joining me to help us understand a bit more about strategic planning and why it's not just a nice to do, but it really is a must do for every nonprofit organization. Tim, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to jump right in with this big question that plagues most every organization. When you're running a nonprofit, there's too much to do. There's always a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak. As a nonprofit leader, founder, or fundraiser, why would I go to the extra effort and energy to add a strategic plan into the mix?
It forces the organization to all work together toward common goals, and having those predetermined really does help you as an organization when you have those sort of out of the blue opportunities, or someone has a really great idea that might be helpful to your organization, but it may take you off your strategy or take your eye off the ball, so to speak, on what the goals are. And so, I really do think it's important to have a plan and everyone working on the same page, because if you don't have an overall strategy, then you really could wander aimlessly. I think one of the great things, again, it puts the people on the same page who really are driving both the day-to-day activities of the organization, but also the overall sense of accomplishment and governance. I'm thinking about the board, the volunteers. So that you're all working toward the same goals. And from the board perspective, the board can really monitor progress on the plan. And there may be parts of the plan that are really important for the board that aren't into the day-to-day, but some of those really higher benchmarks. But all of that is agreed upon and should be documented in a plan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You've personally been in the seat of the fundraiser, Tim, and you've worked with nonprofits for decades in several different capacities. What is the biggest obstacle organizations must overcome before even starting a strategic plan?
Well, I think it goes to resources. Make sure that your staff resources, your budgetary resources. I mean, that's so important to be able to factor in early in a plan. And I think it's a commitment to starting and having a plan in place. Organizations can do a lot of good with when you don't have a plan in place, but when you do have one, then you really are able to decide on what are the needles we're going to move, and what will we do to move those plans? How will we do it? When will we do it? And so if you have all of that documented and you can regularly evaluate and monitor your plan, then I think that does set you up for the greatest success and to really be laser focused on the mission of the organization.
I'm going to make a comparison. I'm going to compare the strategic plan to a gym membership in my mind here. So with a gym membership, many people who purchase it, they spend significant money on it, but they never go. They never work out. And many just may go, but they may rarely use it after those first couple of weeks. However, with a gym membership, several people might be really satisfied and see significant results because they continue to work hard on their personal goals. So I imagine a strategic plan is very similar. What do you think? How do you take a significant investment of time and resources that you've put into your strategic plan and then guide it to a place where it's showing results, like working out regularly, you get results. I imagine when you work a strategic plan, you get results. But what are some tips that you have there?
So I guess my first question is, have you been tracking me and seeing that I haven't been going to the gym like I should?
No, I promise I have not.
No, I think it's a great point in comparison. Again, I think if you think about a gym, hey, we might work out a certain body part, an arm or a leg, and we might really build one up and not the other. Or we might do a lot of cardio, but we don't do any strength training. And so we know all of those pieces need to work together for overall health and well-being. And so I think it's the same with a nonprofit organization. And again, you could sort of wander aimlessly in some ways, but you're still achieving something and you're still doing good work for the people you serve and for the mission of the organization. But that may not last long. And again, you may not be moving the right needles to have the greatest impact. Let's say, for instance, if it's your organization is focused on food insecurity and making sure people have the resources they need for food. Maybe you're really helping in one area, but you realize, we're not providing any fresh foods. We've really got to boost that up. So if you have your plan, you are going to stay focused. And another thing I think about in this area really is your funders, your donors, they won't be, or they'll notice. They will ask those pointed questions, and we know donors and funders want to be more and more involved and have a clear understanding on how we're doing our work, especially when it's tied to funding. So you really do need to be, to tie your strategies to those accomplishments and ultimately that impact.
When you have the plan, you can communicate the vision and that plan to people who might be interested in funding it and funding it significantly. Is that what
Absolutely,
you're saying?
absolutely. And
Mhm.
I think donors, again, they won't let you get away with say veering from the plan too much, or they will notice when you're not focused on your mission. So let's take the food insecurity organization again as an example. All of a sudden, you've decided, we believe we need to provide computers to all of our the people we serve for one reason or another. And let's say it's just not tied to their ability to access food. I mean, that very much. I mean, your donor will ask you those questions. So how do you see that working? How will that help them? And if you're not able to defend that, and you're sort of thinking of that on the spot, then like I said, they're going to notice that and they're going to challenge you on that. So again, you want to have your process in place, your thoughts and your strategies, understanding that also you may need a little wiggle room in there as opportunities do come up, but you can focus back on your strategic plan as, this is where that can be helpful.
Well, I think raising more money sounds like a good motivator to stay on track with that plan
Ab-
for sure.
Absolutely.
I And when you're talking about referring back to the plan too, I'm thinking from a development director perspective or a communications manager perspective too, if you have that plan to refer to, you can build out your fundraising strategy and you can build out your communications plan because you have these talking points, you have your vision laid out for you, and you just need to build that into an overall organizational strategy.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to have key leaders within the organization to be a part of the planning process, to help think about those things and just to have a general awareness of what the priorities are and when those things might occur. So I think you're making a great point, and I agree with that. And it's kind of like a case for support. When we, when as fundraising professionals, we know that we're all focused on communicating those topics that both need the funding but that are having the greatest impact with the population that we're serving.
That's brilliant. Yes. Okay. So let's say I've had a plan in motion for a couple of years. I've worked the plan. We've seen some documented results. As an organization, we call it a success. And maybe as a nonprofit professional, I take a deep breath and breathe for a moment. What's next? Do I jump into a new plan right away? What do I do?
Well, I really think you strategic planning and having a strategic plan shouldn't be maybe looked at as, say, one event or another event and maybe how they all come together, but more of it's a part of your regular process within an organization, and that you're factoring in planning and you're constantly evaluating the plan. So a good plan will have metrics that you can benchmark against and evaluate against, and so you want to monitor those on a regular basis, and you want to monitor that both from a staff perspective, but also, as I said earlier, a board perspective. So once you're doing that, and it's a regular, it's an integrated part of your activities, then aha, we're in 2022. We're at the end of our plan. Let's look and see what are some things that need to go forward or that no longer apply. But we're rolling right into that next plan as we go into 2022. So I think, in short, it's really keep it on the list of activities and keep the awareness of the plan and all the achievements at a high level with all of those key stakeholders.
So it's a continual process.
Absolutely. And that's how you'll do the greatest good. And that's again, I like to use the needles. That's how you're going to move the needle and be laser focused on your mission of your organization.
So strategic planning is complex. It can seem intimidating to get started. I understand that it is important, and maybe once it's in motion, it's a little easier because you're monitoring and you're assessing and those kind of things. What is one thing our listeners can do right after they listen to this podcast to take a step in the strategic planning realm?
Absolutely. And let's say they don't currently have a plan in place. I would say make a list of the most important topics within your organization that you all are focused on, and really think about the amount of time that it takes to accomplish those things, and just jot that down so that when you do go into a strategic planning process and you're sort of grappling with those tough questions, you have a place to start. I mean, here are the priorities, here are the things that we have been working on. So at least you can say, and whether it's being your planning process is being facilitated externally or internally, what are we focused on daily right now? And that's a place to start to say, when we really think about it, that's not as important as this item over here. So if you have that original list, it would be, it's a great place to start. And if I may add one more thing, and that would be get a partner on the board of directors, a leader of the organization. So if you're on the staff and you have a board partner, at least have that person who can be your mirror, who can be your thought partner, but who could also challenge you as a little bit of an outsider to say, boy, we've been doing this, but it really does seem like it's taking a lot of time, and it's not making as great of a dent as we thought it would. So, having that list and those strategies in place, but also having that thought partner, I think would be two key things. If I can't settle on one, that would be important to do right after this podcast.
Those are very helpful. Where do you go to learn and stay on top of best practices and continue to grow your knowledge base?
Absolutely. Well, we know it's not the gym. So I would say, really it's, I think about throughout my career, it's been the Association of Fundraising Professionals and the chapter that I'm affiliated with. I mean, that's where I've learned the most, both from their continuing education, but also just the other colleagues, the members of the chapter. And that's where I've learned great things. The Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University is an excellent source of research in my work. I mean, we really are tying our best practices back to research and what we know, and then how those apply in the day-to-day activities. I love Giving USA and the annual Giving USA report, because not only does it report on the statistics, but if you really delve into the book, I mean, it really breaks down, all of those numbers into strategies and what the implications are in various sectors. But that's a great resource. And CFRE, Certified Fundraising Executive, and that designation, they're great resources there as well that I always turn to.
Well, I will say that I've learned a lot from you. I've attended some webinars that you've hosted and some info sessions through AFP. And I continually learn from your firm, Johnson, Gross, Nickel and Associates. You have some terrific research and tip sheets on your site. I recently downloaded one and shared it with a board of directors that I'm personally involved with. So, Tim, thank you so much for your insight and practical advice today. It's very appreciated, and I think it will move the needle, like you mentioned, for many organizations who might be listening.
Thank you very much. It's been my honor to join you. I appreciate being asked, and I think my colleagues at JGA and I really are just honored to serve so many amazing organizations and to see the impact that they are making across the globe, and just continue to be in awe of what organizations do, and just love their work, and we love our work as well. So thank you.
Strategic planning is not just a nice to do, it's essential. Taking the time to start the process or check in on your strategic plan today can really keep those pesky distractions at bay and help you move that needle on what's really important to your organization. Staying on point with your plan will keep those donors inspired to continue supporting you too. If you would like to know more, I encourage you to check those out at jgacouncil.com. DonorBox has a terrific ultimate guide to strategic planning that's a must-read too. We'll link these for you in our show notes, so be sure to check those out. Thank you for choosing to spend time with the Nonprofit Podcast today. I hope you've left with the confidence to take a small step today that will make a big difference tomorrow. And don't forget to download and review the podcast, or give it a thumbs up if you're listening to the Nonprofit Podcast on YouTube. Your review is a great way to help others find us. You're here to help others, and we're here to help you. So until next time, stay inspired.
The Nonprofit Podcast, powered by DonorBox, helping you help others.